Yeah, I know. My last video was about Zuko, but I'm not done talking about him and Avatar, and frankly, I don't know if I ever will be because, like, it is the greatest show that I have ever seen. But, anyways, if you do want to see my video diving into Zuko psychology, click the iCard or the description. And please, please, please just subscribe because, it really means a lot to me and makes me smile. So, like, brighten my day. But anyway, this is enough seeing my face. You guys don't care. I get it. It's fine. No, I have a lot of fun making these video essays. But I suppose I will get into the video and we will be contrasting Zuko and Azula.
To enjoy a cup of calming jasmine tea. I don't need any calming tea. I need to capture the Avatar. Helmsman, head a course for the light.
Seeing as we are looking at the similarities between the two characters, I suppose that it would only make sense to look at their introduction scenes, the first scenes that we see with both of these characters. For both members of the Fire Nation royal family, their intros provide their main character trait. If you've seen my video on Zuko psychology, which it will be in the iCard, so if you haven't seen it yet, go watch it because I like more views. Thank you. Then you already know why the scene in The Boy and the Iceberg is so important. I'm going to assume you're lazy and mean and didn't go to the video, and I'll just tell you anyway. This scene highlights Zuko's main character trait of anger, which he shows as being his defining characteristic throughout the rest of the show. Other than being hot, of course. Sorry, I'm not sure what happened there. We should get back to Azula's first scene. In the first scene with Azula, she is shown practicing her firebending. As Lo and Lee quote, she's in fact pretty much perfect, but she takes that as still not being good enough. Her constant strive for perfection is clearly something that defines her as a person. Throughout her whole life, she had been seen as a prodigy, and in every scene, she shows herself as being above others. For example, in one scene at the beach, she strives to prove herself as the dominant figure in a friendly match of volleyball where it really doesn't matter if she wins or loses. Another interesting point to make is the placement of the defining characteristics in the scenes that they are in. In both scenes, the scene ends with the focal point character delivering the last line that conveys their character, and then the scene moves on to the next scene. And this clever editing tactic isn't just done to make the scenes look cooler as they end, finishing looking to black, but the editing connects the two scenes, further implying the deeper character comparison between the two characters.
Mother says she was born lucky. He says I was lucky to be born. I don't need luck though.
And while their opening scenes were what originally got me to think about making this video and starting doing more research into it, to really get into the comparative parts of their character, I suppose we should start with their childhood. From a young age, it was clear how differently both these kids were raised. Azula, seeing as she was the prodigy, had always been her father's favorite, while Zuko tended to take his mother's beautiful heart. Perhaps the most fascinating is how this conflict between the two parents stems from the family's rich heritage. Azula and Zuko's father, Ozai, has a lineage that leads directly from Sozin, while their mother was the granddaughter of Avatar Roku. Iroh says the conflict between the two ancestors lives in Zuko, but I don't think that's the whole picture there. While Zuko's character arc, he displays both love for Sozin's ideas and then later becomes more like Avatar Roku, I think there's a much more clear analogy for the conflict than what Iroh chooses to use, and that is through Zuko and Azula. I bring this up in this section about their childhood because their childhood is what caused this conflict to occur. Just like how Zuko has the conflict inside of him, there is no reason that Azula shouldn't. However, due to the love and attention she was given at an early age, she was more able to choose her side. Continuing from this train of thought, both teenagers represent their parents and their grandparents. Ursa, Zuko's mom, was always more focused on the emotional sides of things, and was a woman who kept on trying no matter how many times she was beaten down to help her son. She was also forced to leave her home after murdering Fire Lord Azula, something I totally called and my family didn't see coming, by the way. And this parallels Zuko's banishment later in the show, where he, like his mother, is banished from his home. Azula, much like her father, is extremely calm and calculated. Again, contrasting Zuko, she hardly ever shows emotion, much like her father, who always seems to have a calm demeanor. She also masters the art of manipulation like her father. While from the few scenes that we see Ozai in, it doesn't really seem like he is a manipulative guy, by looking at his relationship with his kids, it becomes more evident of his manipulative prowess. The children and their parents also represent the contrast between the ancestors. In the episode The Avatar and the Fire Lord, we get a good look at the characters Roku and Sozin. Roku is seen as much more emotive, and he tries even when it looked like he might fail. This is first shown through his persistence to get the girl, and later becomes his downfall when he chooses to battle a volcano. Roku also shows mercy to Sozin, something Zuko will later do with Azula when he puts her in just a mental ward rather than killing her. We also get to see a great deal of Sozin in that episode. The first main similarity between him and Azula is their power-hungry drive. Both of them desire to conquer the world and take great efforts in accomplishing this, with both of them conquering a tribe. Sozin being the air nomads, of course, and Azula managing to conquer the Earth Kingdom. They also both are cunning and manipulative. While in their stories it seems that the betrayal would be reversed, both of them are shown to have a deep understanding of how people work and are extremely willing to bend their morals to accomplish their goals.
The showdown that was always meant to be. Agni Kai!
You're on.
The final thing that needs to be mentioned is perhaps the most beautiful and amazing piece of television ever made, and I don't say that lightly. The way this scene manages to tell so many emotions through just music is fantastic. And that emotional punchline relies on the contrast and build-up from these characters' first encounters to their last. In the first battle on the ship, Zuko is impulsive and angry, as he loses his form several times throughout this fight, despite showing good form in his Agni Kai against Zhao. In contrast, Azula is calm and collected, and doesn't attempt to strike until the battle is won, despite clearly being the better firebender. These contrasting fighting styles represent the emotional state of the two characters in the moment. Where Zuko is angry at the world, Azula is still the perfect princess she has always been. But both of these characters start to slowly shift in the way they both view the world, which shows throughout each of their fight. In the battle at Ba Sing Se, Azula jokingly challenges Zuko to an Agni Kai, which she then refuses. This is both foreshadowing to her future challenge as their last encounter, but it also shows how she views herself above all the foolish taunts. She isn't someone who allows herself to get baited into useless fights. At this point in time, she still continues to only strike at the perfect moment, such as when she kills Aang with a simple lightning strike. Zuko is the first to break from this pattern. While he began as an impulsive and emotional, after joining the gang, he is forced to change his firebending style. After going to the dragons in the episode The Firebending Masters, he is finally able to learn the true beauty of firebending. He no longer has to be emotional and angry, but is finding the proper way to firebend. And this can be seen. But perhaps the most fascinating part of these contrasting stories is the change undergone by Azula. Azula's downfall doesn't come as early as Zuko, but she changes just as much, if not more. Just as the epic tale told of Sozin's betrayal being the downfall of Roku, Roku gets his revenge through Azula. Like the story before her, the great betrayal from her friends ends up being Azula's downfall, which was made more prominent by the fact that they all chose Zuko over her. Both of these storylines lead us into the final Agni Kai. To begin with, Zuko is able to tell that something is off with Azula by her willingness to battle one-on-one. Azula is the height of her power, yet she chooses to engage Zuko in a battle that she has more to lose from than to gain. Throughout the whole battle, we are able to see the contrast from their first encounter. While on the battleship, Azula is calm and reactionary. In this fight, she goes on the offensive and loses her cool. Her firebending is coming from the same place as Zuko's, anger and embarrassment. And while Azula's form is slipping, Zuko's form is strong and calm, like Azula's was. He uses the techniques his uncle taught him and focuses on the fight. Azula finally realizes this when she falls. At her lowest, the woman shown that she could never be baited, and certainly not by Zuko, is baited by him to use her lightning. And while she does make a smart move after that, it is still in this moment where she loses the Agni Kai, and it becomes clear that Zuko and Roku have finally risen above her. Like how Ursa defeated Fire Lord Azulon, the man whom Azula is named, Zuko finally defeats his sister. So that's all I have for the video today. I hope you guys liked it, and please consider subscribing. If you have any ideas for future videos, be sure to leave those in the comments below. And with that, I shall depart you to go on for the rest of your day.